Hello, I'm Andrew Pritchard, and thank you for watching today's Corn Belt Regional Forecast, brought to you by Nutrien Ag Solutions. Checking in with the jet stream here on Tuesday morning, we're watching this big upper level trough making its way through the upper Midwest. That's bringing rain and thunderstorms all the way from the southern plains into parts of the eastern Corn Belt, bringing a reinforcing shot of cooler and drier air to a big chunk of the Corn Belt. And then it's going to be moving off to the east, bringing rain to parts of the northeast region as we watch for another kind of reinforcing shot to come in on the backside late week, maybe bringing an isolated shower or storm chance to parts of the upper Midwest and the eastern Corn Belt. The temperature forecast over the next 10 days, I'm fighting off a cold right now, so bear with me a little bit here. The first 5 days on the left and the 5 days that follow that on the right. Again, watching for that cooler area of temperatures to sink into the region here as we head into the middle to the late part of the week. But as we get into next week and into the first 5 days of September, we're watching for that ridge to kind of retake control over at least kind of the western half of the U.S., allowing some of that warmth to build into especially the northern plains. But a large chunk of the Corn Belt going to be at least be returning to seasonally appropriate levels, if not a little bit warmer, as we head into the first 5 days of September. Now, I'm not expecting this to really take a long-term grip on that. On the region. I'm not certainly calling for heat to return as we head into September, but at least the first 5 days going to be feeling a little bit more appropriate across the region. The next 2 weeks of precipitation will focus on the week 1 time frame. Again, we'll be really talking about this region of the central and southern plains, an area that's really seen a good amount of precipitation over the last couple of weeks. We're going to be watching for another system to bring some significant rainfall to this area over the weekend. There will be chances in isolated fashion across this corridor, but really looking drier overall as we look at the next week. The last 24 hours of precipitation, we've watched this upper level low across Canada with a cold front extending off to the south, bringing showers and storms to the eastern Corn Belt into the central plains. It's been really this region over the last 24 hours that's seen the heavier thunderstorms and the heavier downpours. We watched some isolated showers, some lighter rain off to the north, as we talk about parts of Minnesota and Wisconsin early yesterday as well. As we look at that, the last 30 days, it's really been this corridor here from the northern plains into parts of the central plains and the Ozarks. Then it's been hit repeatedly by rounds of showers and thunderstorms. As we check in kind of with this corridor here that's been quite dry over the last couple of months overall, we have brought some precipitation in here. We do still have patchy areas of dryness, some frustrated areas that have been kind of missed out. We've got a pretty good dry spot here along the Illinois and Indiana border that's been a bit missed by some of this, but slowly starting to kind of erode there across parts of Iowa and Illinois and Indiana, where we still certainly have some dryness here, but at least keeping things from getting out of control, not allowing this drought to run wild as we head into the late part of the summer and the early part of the fall. The satellite picture then, as we wake up on Tuesday morning, we're looking at the infrared satellite picture, so the very cold cloud tops associated with these thunderstorms across the southern plains, parts of Oklahoma, Arkansas, southern Missouri, extending into southern Illinois. On Tuesday morning, we're seeing, again, the very cold cloud tops, the cirrus shield associated with that area of showers and storms. You can also see the flow of the atmosphere here kind of curling back counterclockwise around the area of upper low pressure across Manitoba here early this morning, and then watching for cooler and less humid air coming in on the back side there. A very cool look as we wake up here on Tuesday morning. Beneath those clouds, here's a look at the radar picture again. This is about 5 in the morning on Tuesday, so if you're watching this video a little bit later, perhaps take an updated look at the radar picture. But again, here is the front making its way through parts of the Great Lakes, parts of the eastern Corn Belt here, kind of dissecting Illinois and Indiana as we wake up on Tuesday morning. And then, of course, this MCS making its way through parts of Oklahoma and Arkansas, which will continue to die out as we go through the morning here and it gets away from the stronger upper level dynamics. The frontal picture here on Tuesday morning, again, here is that frontal boundary extending from the Great Lakes, well, extending really from Canada through the Great Lakes into the eastern Corn Belt and then all the way into the southern plains. And as we head into the next couple of days, it'll be Thursday now, this frontal boundary extending now from the east coast into the Gulf Coast. And this is our next system we'll watch kind of following it on the backside as we get into the late part of the week, again, bringing maybe an isolated shot of some rain showers to parts of the upper Midwest and the eastern Corn Belt. Again, late week, but really going to be struggling in the way of moisture to work with this second frontal boundary that comes in the backside. So really, the best chance for rain is making its way off to the east as we talk about the eastern Corn Belt. The next significant chance for rain is going to be over the weekend across parts of the Central Plains. The severe weather forecast for the next 3 days, maybe a marginal chance for an isolated strong storm here with that next frontal boundary coming in here, or with some of the cold air aloft, creating steep lapse rates. Again, we're on the backside of the cold front here across the upper Midwest here, Minnesota, Wisconsin, the UP of Michigan. But with the upper level low kind of sitting right above this area, you got very cold cloud or very cold air aloft. So even though we're a bit cooler down near the surface, we're extremely cold aloft. So that does create an imbalance, some instability there to pop some isolated showers and maybe an isolated strong storm producing some small hail. Also looking for maybe an isolated strong storm along the cold front here across parts of central Ohio, and then an isolated strong storm possible with that MCS as it makes its way off to the south. The next 2 days, though, again, that front makes its way through the area. We're quiet across the Corn Belt for the day on Wednesday. And then Thursday, watching that next system come in quickly on the backside, not looking at a severe risk with that as we really struggle to work with moisture, maybe an isolated storm possible along that frontal boundary. So we look at the high resolution NAM model. This will kind of spell it out for us over the next couple of days. And we'll bring it back here and we'll click through time starting on Tuesday morning. Again, watching this frontal boundary making its way through the region. So we get into Tuesday afternoon. This is when we would expect some isolated storms to pop up again across parts of central Ohio, maybe an isolated strong storm. And then again here, this is where the upper level low is. You see the counterclockwise spin there within the atmosphere. Those very cold cloud tops aloft with that upper level low, perhaps allowing some isolated showers and storms to pop across this region, parts of North Dakota, Minnesota, and Wisconsin as we head through Tuesday afternoon and evening. Getting us into the day on Wednesday now, let me take my drawing off here. We're going to be quiet across the Corn Belt. Remember, quiet for the day on Wednesday across the entire Corn Belt. And then as we get into the day on Thursday, here comes this next little quick moving system. You see it up here across parts of Manitoba and then through parts of Ontario. Thursday morning, a little frontal boundary extending off to the south from there. Maybe an isolated shower or storm possible across this region as we head through Thursday afternoon. But really going to be, again, struggling with moisture as this first frontal boundary makes its way through here, taking the better moisture with it off to the south and east. This next frontal boundary really going to be struggling in terms of deep moisture to kick off any sort of widespread precipitation across the region. So as it stands, the next 60 hours from the high resolution NAM model precipitation, again, here is the activity expected from this frontal boundary making its way off to the south and to the east over the next 60 hours. Maybe watching for some isolated showers and storms across this region, especially Tuesday afternoon and evening, with the very cold upper level low sitting over the region, and then perhaps a very isolated chance of a shower or storm for the day on Thursday. The dew point picture here, again, you're going to watch the very cool dry air making its way on the backside of this front. There you see it right there. We do start to kind of return some moisture there as we get into the later part of this loop. This be Thursday afternoon. You can see that next front making its way through. So again, not as if it's bone dry, but really not much in the way of deep moisture. This is what I kind of call last minute moisture. You see it kind of coming in at the last minute ahead of that frontal boundary. So it's not very deep as we look at the vertical profile of the atmosphere. And again, that's why we would be struggling to see anything in the way of widespread showers and storms along that Thursday frontal boundary. So where are we headed then in the next week or so? Here's a look at the upper level picture here, 500 millibar height anomalies. This is that big upper level low that's making its way through the region right now, bringing that widespread rain chance that we did see from the eastern Corn Belt to the southern plains. Now going to be dealing with that from maybe Ohio into Texas as we wait for that cooler and drier air to make its way into the Corn Belt here over the next 24 to 48 hours. Let's take a look at where we're headed though beyond that. This begins to move off to the east. We see this next lobe coming in on the backside. This is the Thursday frontal boundary making its way in, bringing kind of one more reinforcing shot of cooler air. And then as we get into the weekend and early next week, you're starting to see this ridge begin to build back into the region, allowing heat certainly to return to the western U.S. and parts of the northern plains and the central plains, and then probably expanding into the eastern Corn Belt, at the very least bringing things back to seasonally appropriate levels, if not, a couple of days above normal as we get into, we're talking about early to mid next week, the first few days of September. Now, as we look at the 500 millibar vorticity, this will help us kind of pick out upper level systems and little short waves that are responsible for kicking off storms. and that'll help us pinpoint what is going to be bringing the heavy rain to parts of the central plains as we get into the weekend. So let's go ahead and we'll hit play on this, and we will again step through time. We'll bring it back to Tuesday morning. Here's the big upper level low. This is bringing the cooler air to the Corn Belt. It's bringing the frontal boundary across the region. And again, the vorticity and the very cold upper level temps spinning across Minnesota and Wisconsin Tuesday afternoon and evening going to be bringing that chance for some isolated showers and storms to that region. Heading through the middle to late part of the week, we watch this first wave begin to kick off to the east into the northeast region here by the time we get to Thursday. Here's the next disturbance coming in on the backside. You're seeing it punch in right here as we get into Thursday and Friday. Then we get to start to watch over towards the central and southern plains now. We're watching the kind of a little disturbance rotating up and over the top of the ridge here over the southwest. We're going to develop an area of low pressure across the central and southern plains now as we get into late Friday and then into Saturday, bringing some significant precipitation to parts of Kansas and Oklahoma, again, Friday and Saturday. Now we watch the ridge now beginning to build back into the area. We'll watch for little disturbances perhaps to travel up and over the top of this ridge, maybe bringing some shower and storm chances to parts of the upper Midwest. I'd say the best chance going to be in this region. As far as we talk about southern flank here, anywhere, parts of Iowa, Illinois, and Indiana. Low confidence. I wouldn't rule it out as we're talking about Monday and Tuesday and Wednesday, perhaps seeing an isolated thunderstorm chance returning to this region, but the best chance is going to be off to the north across parts of the Great Lakes, parts of the upper Midwest, at least until we get to mid to late next week. But that, of course, is where I've got low confidence. So really, as we talk about significant precipitation, this frontal boundary that's making its way through now, that was really it. You have to go to Kansas and Oklahoma for significant precipitation over the next week or so, or at the very least off towards the U.S. and Canadian border, where we could see a system making its way through early next week. So the total precipitation, the ensemble mean from the GFS, we'll just kind of play it out. You'll see this first frontal boundary making its way off to the south. You see the significant precipitation in this area. And then as we talk about the rest of the Corn Belt, though, you see we start to fill in a little bit, but it is rather light. We're looking at the low end of the spectrum here, again, where this model is trying to put together where some of these isolated showers and storms may occur as we get into the early to middle part of next week. But really, the significant precipitation you're seeing here is either from the Thursday frontal boundary or the midweek, this week frontal boundary that we're seeing here Tuesday and Wednesday, and then the more significant precipitation as we talk about parts of Kansas and Oklahoma over the weekend. So the national blended model, this takes several of our models and kind of combines them into one universal picture here. So we lose some detail, but we also get an idea for the trends, and it's going to kind of replay or regurgitate what I just threw at you. You see the precipitation early on in the loop. We'll go ahead and we'll take it back. We'll step through time with this one as well to kind of spell it out. But just to repeat, here's that frontal boundary making its way from west to east right now, getting into Tuesday and Wednesday. Now we're taking this into Thursday, quiet across the region, maybe an isolated shower storm possible up here on Thursday. And then as we get into the day on Friday and Saturday, watching this more significant precipitation to set up across parts of the central plains. Here we are Friday into Saturday evening now, Sunday. And then as we get into the early part of next week, you're really seeing it stay quiet across a big chunk of the Corn Belt. Across this region, maybe a low chance for some isolated showers and storms with some of the disturbances that may travel up and over the top of that ridge. But as we look out that far, those are going to be small details that aren't going to be resolved at this range. So really, we got to kind of kick the can down the road. If we want to talk about the early next week rain chances across parts of the Corn Belt, we really could do a better job of that as we get to certainly Eric's video on Thursday morning, and then my next look at the Corn Belt on Friday. So I'm repeating myself a lot, but if you're in the Corn Belt here, this is going to be the best chance for some rain over the next week. Otherwise, this frontal boundary that's making its way through the region, that's taking the best moisture with it, going to kind of quiet things down across the Corn Belt overall for the next week or so. Your temperature forecast then, looking at temperature anomalies, this will kind of spell out the picture with the ridge returning to the region. Take it back to Tuesday. Here comes this first wave of cooler air into the Corn Belt, and then another reinforcing shot late week with that Thursday frontal passage. So Friday is certainly going to be a cool day across a big chunk of the Corn Belt. And as we get into the weekend now, keeping the cooler temperature risks slowly making their way from the west to the east. It's as we get into Monday and Tuesday of next week, we start to see the ridge expand. So cooler through the weekend across the Corn Belt. But as we get into Monday and Tuesday, maybe starting to see some warmth creep back in. Your high temperatures for the next 5 days, very cool for the day on Tuesday across the northern plains. High temperatures in the lower 60s, all the way down to the lower 80s off to the south. As we make our way into the next couple of days, watching that core of cooler air making its way slowly off to the east, highs in the 60s now across parts of the Great Lakes. Watching that warmth kind of return back on the backside here before a reinforcing shot of cooler air comes in on Thursday, Friday, and Saturday. Really going to be a cool weekend across the entire Corn Belt. As always, Eric Snodgrass will have an in-depth look at the next 1 to 2 weeks in our Thursday morning ag forecast video, and I'll have your next check-in with the Corn Belt region on Friday morning. Have a great day, a wonderful rest of the week, and if by chance you're at the Farm Progress Show here in Decatur, Illinois, over the next couple of days, look for the Nutrien Ag Solutions area there. Eric Snodgrass and I both will be there, and we would love to talk to you. Again, have a great day and a wonderful rest of your week.